welcome back to the We Spin Local podcast with your host, Adam Moore.
Welcome back. This is Adam Moore with the We Spin Local Network podcast. Today, I'm joined by local business owner, the man, the myth, the legend, Jamon Sellman. How you doing?
Good. A little overstated, but I appreciate it.
No, not at all. Not at all. First off, I appreciate you joining us here today. So we'll get right into it. This is so for everybody that's not aware, what we're doing here at the We Spin Local Network podcast is that once a month we're going to do a podcast interview, and we're going to each month is going to be based on a different theme that we've kind of come up with at We Spin Local. The first month was all about goal setting for the new year. And then this February is all about love, right? And what gives a Valentine's Day. And what a better way to talk about love than like actually loving our local economy. And you've had such a big part to do with some of all of the redevelopment things that are going on in our downtown Urbana area. And so I really appreciate you coming on and able to share a little bit with us today. But before we get into that, I just wanted to give you this opportunity to introduce yourself a little bit. If somebody doesn't know you, who are you? What do you do in Urbana?
Jamon Sellman. I own Sellman Insurance Group right in the square of Urbana. And so, by trade, I am an insurance agency owner and specialize in commercial, farm, and life insurance planning. But it's somewhat evolved.
So tell me a little bit, how'd you get into the insurance game, and then how'd you find yourself here in Champaign County? Because I know just through our conversations in the past, like you're not from here originally. How'd you end up here?
Well, my family background was in engineered wood products. And so I got kind of a background in construction and management through that. And it's very deep in our family bloodlines. My grandfather, my father, my brother, myself, all in the same industry, all working for the same company for quite some time. I felt like my personality was better suited for a different industry. And the financial industry is historically proven. And I always have enjoyed people. So that being the case, I thought what better than a customer facing environment that is a constant service oriented business. And so that's why I chose it, and I'll never look back. It has been absolutely a fit for my personality and what I enjoy. So I don't feel like I'm working. But the first time I came to Urbana was actually late 2012 when I learned of an agency that might be experiencing a retirement, which was Linda Cosby. And so late in 2012, we met, we had a breakfast, and the rest is history, because we hit it off so well and had such a similar business mindset that the merger became a natural event. And so I actually officially moved to Urbana in March of 2013 and officially took over the agency January 1st of 14. So that's the kind of the insurance journey.
Very cool. So obviously kind of by happenstance or luck, if you have it, you find yourself in Champaign County. What about Champaign County or this area specifically has really resonated with you to cause you to want to be here and stay here and raise a family here? Obviously, you've been here for going on 10 years now. So what's so special about Champaign County that you love being here and investing your money back into the community?
I have to say it absolutely was attractive. The first time I ever drove into Urbana, the historic bones of the community and all the historic housing and the level of preservation that a lot of it has had, not all, but a good amount of it has been well preserved. And it just had a presence, a feeling to me the first time I came into town. And then as I got to know the community, it became so much more than that. I was an outsider in a small town, and everybody, for somewhat good reasons, could be a little scared of that. And I was too. I didn't know if I would be accepted. I wasn't born and raised here. My last name doesn't mean anything here. And so I basically decided to just get to know as many good people as I possibly could. And the best place to start was my book of business. I had inherited through the merger with Linda Cosby a lot of good people. And as I got to know them, I got to know further and further out into the community. And the agricultural background was just something that meant a lot to me. And I identified with very quickly, even though I was not raised on a farm. I think the mentality of our farmers and the ag community is very salt of the earth, very honest, forthcoming. And that was the way I was raised. So it really fit, and I enjoyed it from the get-go.
A quick word from our sponsors, and we'll get right back to the interview. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Champagne Works. It can be hard to find the right employees or to get the word out there about your business in a way that reaches people who live near you. There are so many job boards and advertising platforms out there, it can be hard to know where to start. And even if you do find the right place to post your jobs or advertise, how do you know that the people who see your ad are actually from Champaign County? That's where Champagne Works is different. We've focused exclusively on business in Champaign County, Ohio. That means when you post a job or share news with us, it's reaching people who live right here in our community. We also have built-in audience of over 2,000 people who subscribe to our email newsletter and follow us on social media. Visit champagneworks.com or give me a call at 937-462-1045 to learn how your business can benefit from Champagne Works. Very cool. So obviously the history in Champaign County is something that I've always been very interested in. And obviously you own a building in downtown Urbana, which is the most historic part of our county, most likely. So, tell me a little bit about the building actually. Like how old is that building?
You're referring to the one my office is in now, right?
Yeah, that's correct. They're in it'd be the northwest.
Yeah. That building, the historical records are destroyed, so it's a guesstimation of the 1840s. And it evolved. It was several different things. It was Ullman's store, and then became Stage once that got bought out. And so in the 50s, late 50s, 1950s, they had gotten huge government grants to basically white out the faces of these historic buildings, which is insanity to me at this point. But regardless, that's what happens. They put a concrete, many people think it's stucco. It is a wire meshed concrete face on these buildings. And my goodness, it was quite the task to even just remove that. But that's the history of the building. And so when we saw the historic photos, we saw a lot of beauty in the building. Bay windows, ornate brickwork, window work, hoods above the windows that were limestone or sandstone. And sure enough, when we pulled it off, a lot of that still was there.
Yeah, it's cool. It's kind of cool that, we've talked about this a little bit, Jamon, how like our paths have crossed in weird ways in the past. Obviously, you mentioned Linda. Linda's a relative of mine that you bought the insurance company from. But ironically enough, my first job when I was 16 years old, I was rehabbing that building when Stage closed. And so like I spent a lot of time when in the summer of 2005 or 6 or something, somewhere around that time frame, actually doing a lot of the rehab work, taking out putting in new flooring, new drywall, all that cool stuff. So it's just kind of a cool, weird little connection there to that building. Mm-hmm. So obviously, you mentioned a little bit about what you're doing with that building. So talk a little bit more about obviously your insurance company that is housed there on the first floor. What are you doing on the second, third stories? I think most people now, when you drive through the square, can notice that there's something big is happening there. Obviously, everybody remembers the white stucco or whatever that is on the front, and now that's no longer there. And you got the exposed brick back. So tell us a little bit about what your plans are for that, for the upper story of that building.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I'll start with where it came from. Is seeing. I was part of the housing consortium committee that did the housing study in Champaign County through the CEP. I didn't spearhead it. I was only a pawn in that whole thing, but it was so enlightening how much they, from a very broad scope, could see how short we were on housing in our county. And one of the major sectors was downtown, more sophisticated living. And so that just rang a bell to me. I'm sitting in a downtown building that was really, really rough when I bought it. There was terrible HVAC. There was that. The list would be very long as to what has been done already. But even just that, stabilizing the first level and making that attractive and redoing all the floors and all that brought such attention and commendation from our community, just saying, man, how much everyone appreciated seeing the historic bones being preserved and appreciated. And I'm sitting on the first level of two more levels above me that are just gorgeous as well. The ballroom on the third floor and all the huge windows that could be exposed. And I just thought, I'm tired of talking about it. I'm going to just do it. And so I engaged the historic tax credit platform, which is a very long off-topic story, but it's a blessing and a curse. But in any case, that is the path I chose. And it does offset a lot of the expenses, but the expenses are so much higher than new construction that you just have to have that offsetting of about 40% is what you get back on the tax credits. Over time, it's not all in one place, but ultimately it only gets it close to what a new construction building would cost. So the play is just to make some kind of business sense to do rehabs on historic buildings. That platform is very useful. So what we started was a design that includes 9 loft apartments. Most of them, there's several that are just studio, open floor plan, a few with some enclosed bedrooms, and one with 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and a laundry room on the third floor that occupies that entire ballroom. So it's basically a structure within a structure of a large ballroom, and it will be positively amazing to be on that third level.
A quick word from our sponsors, and we'll get right back to the interview. This podcast is brought to you by Your Hometown Techs. It can be hard to find the time to focus on your IT needs when you're trying to run a business. Between keeping up with updates and patches, managing your cybersecurity, dealing with hardware failures, and more, it can feel like you simply don't have the time for your IT needs. That's where we come in. We handle all of those things for you so that you can stay focused on what you do best, which is running your business. Plus, our plans are tailored specifically to meet your needs so that you never pay for services that you don't need. Call 937-404-1175 to see how Your Hometown Techs can help you with your IT needs. This is a hard time to be doing construction, right? With mid-pandemic and everything that's going on with some of the material shortages. And when did you start the project? And do you have an estimated time of completion? Like, when would you like to have people into the building?
We started the project August 1st of last year. So 21, August 1 was our official start date. I had done a bunch of demo and prep prior to that. That was, before all of the tax credit stuff. But once that began, it was in full force and all the brickwork happened. I think everyone saw through the summer the removal of the old and retuck pointing the face. And I projected at that point a 1-year project, and I really, really hope that I can keep that schedule, that somewhere around summer, I will be actually leasing these new apartments. The concept is to preserve everything possible. So the interiors will be exposed brick, washed down to have a more finished look, and that they're not dusting constantly, and then historic wood floors, the original 1840s white or yellow birch, and some are pine, the old pine that was actually considered a hardwood back in the 1840s. And the big expansive ceilings, we're not dropping the ceilings. In 95% of the project, it's all the full 12-foot ceilings, which is just so neat of a feeling when you're in these.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think it'd be a big asset for downtown Urbana when it's finished. What's something like what what are some of like the logistical hurdles or nightmares? Like, what's something you didn't expect with the project?
Structural issues.
Okay.
And because we're doing it right, you don't cut corners there. We exposed when we pulled off the concrete face on the far left-hand side, the west side of the face of the building, there was some major deterioration of the beam that holds up the very face of the building. And what I learned through the process of this, when we had structural engineers on site, is that when steel rusts, it becomes 9 to 12 times its original size. So because of the outweighing of strength between steel and brick, it literally pulverized the brick all around it when it expanded because it rusted. So what you're left with is worthless steel and busted up brick.
Yeah.
So stabilizing that was quite the task. And it was done by structural engineers, speccing everything. And boy, is it a heavy duty column that went in over where Sitting Pretty, the dog groomer side, is on the far west side of the building. There's a massive column now that goes to a concrete footer all the way down to the basement, that is re-supporting that beam the way that it should have all along. Also, we learned that the building was not stitched. So a lot of the old buildings, when you come to a corner, there will be a stitching of the brick, and the face of the building was not stitched. And so we had to go in and solidify all of that by these L brackets that basically go into the corners, and then you'll see the stars on the face of the building. Basically, what we did is we stitched the entire building back up. And so it is one of the heaviest well-built buildings you could imagine at this point.
So couple things. I'm guessing that that stitching of those walls, maybe that was just not the practice of those old construction techniques, because I've ran into it before when I was looking at a house to where that same thing, where the basement walls weren't connected in any way. They were just like butted up to each other. So like they're not supporting each other in any way. So this is kind of an interesting thing to hear about. But then I want to know from that column, obviously I'm guessing that's a big tall column that's supporting the entire building. Like, how did you get that in there? Is that one continuous column? Did you have to build on top of each other? Like, that just seems like a nightmare.
It was, and it was so heavy. We had to get a crane in there to actually support. It was actually like a bucket truck that could carry like 500 pounds, and it couldn't even carry the whole load. And 4 guys to erect it. And the concrete footer had a ton of engineering into it as well. It had to have some very heavy spec rebar and bolting patterns for the bolts that studded up through the concrete so that you could set the column on top. So that column, I think, was about 700-800 pounds just by itself.
Yeah.
And then it had to be welded to the existing steel that was there. We also put steel in for all of the new windows that are transom windows. So now, instead of just having storefront windows, we now have another line of transom windows that goes back to the historical roots as well. So a lot more light is coming in there, and it has definitely a more attractive appearance. But we took advantage of the fact that we were swapping out the storefront windows and had the window out, and that's how we got the column in.
Oh, okay.
Because there would be no way to do it otherwise. It had to come in the front, and it was too big for a standard door opening. So that's what we did.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Pretty lucky, almost, in a way.
Yeah.
So very cool. I think like me, I think everybody's really excited to see that, kind of like you put the finishing touches on that building and have that become a place where people can live and enjoy their lives in that building. I think it's going to be something that's, again, really beneficial for downtown Urbana. Quick word from our sponsors, and we'll get right back to the interview. This podcast is brought to you by Berry Digital Solutions. You need a local marketing agency that understands the unique needs of small businesses right here in Champaign County. Most marketing agencies are geared towards larger businesses, and they don't have the understanding or experience to help small businesses like you succeed online. Berry Digital Solutions is different. We're a local marketing agency that specializes in helping small businesses succeed online. We have over 5 years of experience in website design, SEO, social media marketing, video production, ad campaigns, you name it. And to top it off, we're passionate about helping our clients grow their business. Visit berrydigitalsolutions.com/contact to schedule a meeting with one of our marketing experts to see how we can help you grow your business in 2022. Right across the street, you're working on another project. Tell me a little bit about the Park National Bank building that you guys acquired.
Yeah, and actually, if you don't mind, I'll take it kind of in order of the sequence of time that I think is going to be coming here. The brewery is actually going to beat the restaurant in timelines because we actually started demolition this week. We started Monday of this week, so that project is officially launched, and the brewery is going to sit in the northwest corner of the square. If you go through the square now, you'll see that the metal paneling has been removed now. That's where the rooftop deck will be for the brewery. And down below is where the brewery is going to be in similar time frame for the brewery. We're hoping for a late spring, early summer opening. I don't know how many hurdles are left to jump over, but we have a very qualified team now. 3C Construction is actually going to be managing that project. I manage the lofts, but it's just too much for me to take on. So we hired them, and they're local, and they're doing an outstanding job already getting a fast track to get this brewery open for the summer.
Very cool. So what will the brewery look like? What will that look like to the consumer?
I can actually send you a couple fly-throughs, one for the lofts and one for the brewery. But for the consumer, basically, when you look at the face of my building, where the lofts will be, if you look to the left, there will be an inlet that goes in there, and then it opens up about 2,800 square feet beyond that.
Okay.
And that's the brewing equipment will be in the far western side of the space back there. And the beer hall will kind of be right in front of you with a bar towards the back and a cold room, and the restrooms actually going back into a section in the back. We're putting a new garage door, overhead door in the back part of the building, so it could serve as kind of a flow through for those summer nights that the weather's awesome and everybody kind of wants to have that open air feeling.
Very cool.
And then the rooftop deck is a game changer for us. We went really hard at the rooftop deck. It took a lot of engineering because we have to beef up the entire roof system and recreate the roof with like a astroturf with a membrane that sheds water but still acts as a floor to people walking on the roof. And there'll be another bar up there. So
okay, I guess I didn't even know that. That's super cool. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, gas fire pits as well. So those will be visible from the square. When people are driving around the square, you'll see these gas fire pits through that little opening. And the whole idea is community. We want people bringing their dogs, having game night with the kids, yoga on a Saturday morning on a rooftop in Urbana in the summer, stuff like that is just constant reasons for there to be a communing.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to that. That'll be really, really cool. Something that's very unique, right? Like, is there anybody in your research? Is there anybody nearby doing anything similar? I mean, obviously, in your bigger cities, that's a pretty, like those rooftop bars. That's pretty common, but I don't think I've ever seen one local.
No, this will be the only rooftop bar that we know of in the county, and even in surrounding counties. It's a pretty tough thing to pull off. There's a lot of engineering that goes into it and cost. And that is Jason, Kyle, and myself are partners in this. And we both just felt super strong about what that's going to look like and how much more options that affords to entertainment, to live music, to the gas fire pit idea. People could get married on that rooftop. It's a limited capacity, but small weddings could happen up there. There's just a lot of really, really neat ways to use a rooftop. And we just felt like it just had to happen. Nobody else is doing it. Why shouldn't we?
Why not us, right?
Yep.
Very cool. Well, I'm looking forward to that. Sponsors, and we'll get right back to the interview. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the Mental Health, Drug, and Alcohol Services Board of Logan and Champaign counties. It can be difficult to find the right mental health or addiction provider, especially if you don't know where to start. You may feel like you're on your own when it comes to finding help for yourself or a loved one who suffers from mental health disorder or addiction. The good news is that there are treatment providers in our community who want to help. Local Help Now is a digital platform that connects treatment providers in our community with those of us seeking help. With just a few clicks, you can find the right provider for your loved one and get started on the road to recovery. If you're experiencing a behavioral health crisis, download the Local Help Now app, call the local crisis number at 1-800-224-0422 or text 4HOPE to 741-741. Can you tell us a little bit about the restaurant? I don't know. I think people are starting to hear whispers and those types of things, but what can you tell us about the restaurant project that you're working on as well?
Yes, so that is like you mentioned, the Park National Bank building that was sold, where Martin Brown is up above there. The second floor is going to remain mostly untouched. The first floor, however, is quite a large space and perfect for a restaurant. And so myself, Jason, Kyle, we are the partners in the ownership of the restaurant as well. And then Terry Howell and Todd Michael are also owners in the real estate piece of it. Okay. So owning the building itself, and we're all developing the building together to serve the purpose of a upscale restaurant in the downtown. So the angle is that we're going to try to create something again that does not exist yet in the county. There's some other really good development projects like the Woodruff restaurant coming in, where there's going to be kind of more upscale feeling. But as it is now, we have to travel outside the county to have a more upscale dining experience. So we hired a architectural firm out of Dayton that came originally from Chicago, and they're taking Dayton by storm because they're so highly skilled at creating an environment that is unique. And so we toured a couple of their projects and just fell in love with how sophisticated yet comfortable these spaces felt. And we adapted that mentality to kind of a more agricultural community. So we're going to have, the space when you walk in, it will not be just paint on the walls. There will be a tremendous facelift that takes place inside of there. And as far as construction goes, we are finalizing the MEPs, which is the mechanical drawings for plumbing, electric, and HVAC, in the next month or so. So once that happens, then we'll start putting it out to bid. So we could probably expect to start seeing construction around summertime. And I would guess that one is probably a full year of construction as well. So we might be looking at 2023, somewhere in there, for actually having an operational restaurant that is serving premium steaks, lobster tail, seafood, sea bass, things like that are things that we don't currently have.
That's very, very, very cool. Is there anything like cool, anything new upcoming that you're working on that nobody else knows about, or are you just like fully focused on the brewery and the lofts and the restaurant? If that's the case, like that makes a lot of sense, right? Like that's a lot. You've got a lot on your plate.
Well, I think you know me well enough now. It's tough for me to get an idea and not somehow try to pursue it.
Yeah.
I've got that old school kind of dreamer thing going on, and I'm addicted to progress. So when I see something else that's a possibility, I get engaged very quickly, and a lot of energy goes into this stuff. So we're actually working on a couple other projects right now in another building that I have on the other corner where Duncan and Associates was for years. There will be wine bar and tapas restaurant in the corner. It will have outdoor dining. And again, we are going hard at the historic fabric of that building. We took out all the nasty flooring, the old paint colors. We exposed the original wood floors and are redoing those, exposed the brick. So when you walk into this space now, it's going to look entirely different than it did before. And that took a lot of energy because I put that building out there on Facebook and really wanted to attract something exact this. I did not want something that was not a retail or food service experience or major piece of progress. And so that meant saying no to a couple of folks that wanted that space, which hurts me as a developer now. You know, it's painful, but I took a page out of Jason Duff's book Up in Bell Fountain. He really strategized on what the community was looking for and really needed and would thrive most in his downtown spaces that he was developing for these types of businesses. And so I've teamed up with some investors locally that are very well suited to make this happen. And they're fully committed to it. I cannot name them at the moment. That will come soon, I'm sure. But that restaurant should be coming underway and hopefully again, you know, springtime opening.
I think I have a feeling that if you you look at what Urbana is now, what downtown Urbana is now, 3, 4, 5 years from now, it's going to be a completely different place, pretty unrecognizable to what we're used to. And I think in large part that's because of the work that you and these other local investors are doing and investing back into our community. And that's something that I know I'm super appreciative for, and I think a lot of people will be too. So I wanted to thank you for obviously you've been successful enough in your businesses to have money and then invest it back into the community and into these buildings and creating these experiences for people who live here. That's something that's really, really cool. So.
Yeah. One other venture that's coming is right next to that tapas restaurant. There's going to be a new business that's actually having their open house with the chamber in the next couple of weeks, I do believe. It's Bell's Flowers. So
I heard that,
yeah. And another very motivated and intelligent business owner that has put a lot of energy into designing their business plan and has a clear vision for what they're doing. And so those retail things, like you mentioned, all this new progress, the look of the square will be boots on the ground. And that is the essence of any type of downtown space that's alive and thriving, is that human beings are walking between spaces, you know, whether they just grab the coffee on the corner and then they're walking over to meet their friend for some dinner, or, got to grab some flowers for the wife on the way home, or grab some takeout from, and there's just this alive atmosphere of people walking. You see lights on the second and third stories because people are living there. Things that we haven't seen in my time in Urbana for sure. And even those that have been here a long time say that, you know, 70s, 80s was kind of the end of that. So it's just super exciting.
Yeah, a lot of cool stuff going on. I'm looking forward to it. You know, we do. So with this podcast, Jamon, obviously it's consumer focused, right? Like, so I think a lot of people that live in Champaign County who don't necessarily have a business or entrepreneurial, like they're gonna listen to this podcast and they're gonna get to learn a little bit about what's going on in our community, which is really cool. But I also want to provide value to people like yourself who are business owners and risk takers and entrepreneurial. So if like you had to give, like from all your experience, if you had to give a piece of advice to a business owner, like what would it be?
Can I rip off a saying?
Yes, please do.
The Wayne Gretzky, I live by it, is you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And then one that I used for years, and now daggone it, a better looking man is using it than me. Matthew McConaughey is saying it on his commercial, fortune favors the brave.
Yeah. And
that is, I believe in both of those, that it's not a willy-nilly, careless, I'm going to go open a business. But when you have grit and understand enough about a business that you know you can make numbers work, team up with somebody that has been through a handful of experiences in small business. They can give you kind of like if I did it over again, here's what I wouldn't do. Or no matter what, don't forget to do this. And, each business is unique. So it's not like there's entirely a perfect roadmap for every business, but Definitely it takes taking a conversation into action. And there's a lot of conversation. That's what happened when I first got to town is I saw there was a lot of, hey, somebody should open a brewery in this town. And you hear that about 500 times. And I was having a beer with Jason Kyle, and we both just looked at each other and we're like, why not us? You know?
Yeah.
I don't know the first thing about owning a brewery, but we should probably learn.
Yeah, I love that mindset. And I appreciate you giving us a little bit of time today to learn more about you and about the businesses and about a lot of the cool things that you're helping bring to life in Champaign County. So I really appreciate it. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Where can people reach out to you if they have any questions, or if they want to learn more information about your insurance company? Like what's the best place for people to learn more about you?
My agency website, I don't really have much of a presence when it comes to the development side. I have a Facebook page called Sellman Enterprises, and that really is just the spaces that I have available for rent in different communities. But as time goes on here, I'll probably create a new Facebook page. It's Urbana Lofts, and also another one will be Urbana Brewing Co., which is the brewery. So Facebook has kind of been my go-to for getting information out there to the public. So pretty soon here, you'll probably see both of those popping up because we're only a few months away from, hopefully, a few months away from both of those opening. Facebook would be the best way to see the progress. We're going to try to keep everybody informed as we hit major milestones, when the brewing equipment gets delivered and the first lights go on in the first loft apartment, all that.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you for joining us. It was great talking to you.
Thank you very much, Adam. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of We Spend Local, a podcast and Berry Digital Solutions Company.